The NFL offseason has already been absolute chaos when it comes to deals we didn't see coming, moves that flipped overnight, and teams taking a big swing to go for a championship push, and we are just getting started. Welcome back to podcast number 90 of Sports Talk with JWock. I am your host, Jonah Walkenfoos, and if you haven't noticed already, we have a little bit of a different format that I'm going to be doing in this episode. It's something that I'm kind of toying around with, seeing if this might be a better option to do. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about specific things like what's going on in the sports world, but also more generally the NBA and the NFL world. I thought it would be better if I did an episode each week with both topics in there, because I do feel like we have a little bit of a split audience on my podcast, where I do feel like there's a lot of NFL people that don't want to watch NBA content and vice versa. So the reason why I'm doing this is I want everybody to have the opportunity to be able to get my perspective on that specific sport that you want me to talk about, and not have to wait, 2 weeks or whatever to be able to get that episode. So we're going to be trying that. So first off, let's kind of talk about what's going on in the sports world in general, just because I feel like only talking about the NBA and NFL, in my opinion, is just rough. Or it's not rough, but it's one of those situations where I feel like I can get more people to join this podcast and join the crew. And, if I could get more people, that's even better. So let's first talk about, I feel like we're in the second prime of sports. I mean, we genuinely have such an amazing future ahead of us in the coming months for sports, and let me explain. So first off, we have the NBA regular season and the playoffs coming up. Like, we still have the regular season going on. It's kind of the quote-unquote dog days of the NBA season, where it's just the final few games until the playoffs, or not the playoffs for certain teams. Then we have the NHL season going on along with the playoffs. We'll have the Stanley Cup. I love the NHL playoffs, which, by the way, I think is criminally underrated, in my opinion. We also have MLB spring training. We're going to be getting opening day relatively soon. So that's exciting for you baseball fans. I'm not the biggest person into watching baseball, but I think I'm going to try a little more so I can get some more episodes and maybe try to get some baseball fans onto this podcast as guests. We have the World Cup, one of my favorite events in sports, coming up this summer. Team USA, once again, is going to let me down, probably lose in the first round of the elimination rounds. But, hey, guess what? At least they're there. Probably mainly because they're hosting. But anyways, another big event, let's talk about baseball. The U.S. falls to Venezuela in 3-2 in the World Baseball Classic Championship game. This is a little bit of an upset. I mean, I think most people were anticipating the U.S. to, for sure, make the finals, but definitely not lose. But shout out to Venezuela. I mean, it's always nice being able to see other countries win it as well. I love the USA, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's nice seeing other teams win and humbling them a little bit. So hopefully next year, the U.S. can go into that a little more hungry, a little more motivated, and hopefully win it next year. Anyways, let's get on to some of the bigger topics, where let's first talk about what's going down in the NBA, because like I mentioned earlier, we're kind of in the dog days of the NBA season, where players are just really trying to grind out the rest of the season, whether that's to get into the offseason and start training and getting ready for next season, or going into the play-in/playoffs, where they're hoping to keep their chances alive and try to make the NBA Finals. But we're kind of in that situation, but that's not what I'm going to talk about here in the NBA. I'm going to talk about something that Shams Charania tweeted, where this month, there will be a vote, or there will be a meeting between the owners and NBA in general to vote as to whether or not they should bring in two new NBA teams, which would be the Seattle the Seattle team and a Las Vegas basketball team for the 2028-2029 season. So if any of you guys were, maybe wondering, well, if there's an expansion, when's that going to happen? It's going to be a ways away, but that's something to keep in mind. I'm curious to see if this will fall through in the voting. I think it will. I think we will have an expansion. but I don't think it's going to be like a dramatic, like all the owners and NBA executives and stuff are just going to like dramatically say, yes, we need to expand. I think it's going to be pretty close, because I do think that we are pretty good where we're at. The NBA is pretty good where it's at right now with 30 teams. Adding two new teams is exciting, especially a Seattle team. I think most people have wanted Seattle to come back anyways for a long time. So it's exciting. I'd love to know what you guys think, because honestly, I'm pretty torn on it. I'm not sure if I want an expansion, but I'm also like, there's a lot of talent sitting at the end of championship level benches that just aren't playing right now. And if there's an expansion, there's a chance that maybe they do get that opportunity on another team. So it could be interesting. And if you guys don't know, in an expansion draft is essentially what would happen if there were two new teams expanding into the NBA. Basically, each team would be able to keep 8 players as like, these are protected players. You have no chance of drafting that. Those other players that aren't protected will go into like a player pool where teams will essentially be able to, or those expansion teams will essentially be able to draft and bring in those players on their team. Now, obviously, if one of those players that's on your favorite team doesn't get drafted, they'll end up being back on your roster, so you don't have to worry about that at that point. But things could get interesting. Comment below, who would your 8 players be that you would keep on your favorite team and that you would not want to be in the player pool? Let me know down below. Do it with the current roster. Don't think far ahead. Don't overthink it. Just with the current roster, name 8 players you would keep on your favorite roster. But anyways, some of the names of the teams that could be going down for a Seattle and Las Vegas team. For Seattle, I think we all know it'd probably be the Supersonics. I just feel like there's no real reason why you shouldn't do the Supersonics. I feel like everybody would get upset if they didn't. For Vegas, on the other hand, it's interesting. There are many different team names that could go down. And here's one, the Sharks, which I saw this is a popular one, which I don't really think makes sense for Vegas, but they also, apparently this would be like in honor of a late great, I believe, UNLV coach. So I'd have to do a little more research. You guys can look it up as well. Definitely could be an interesting. I don't think the Sharks would be a good one for Vegas. That's just my thought. Another interesting team name could be the Outlaws, which I actually think would be the coolest, especially since in Vegas it's mostly desert outside of it, where the Outlaws would actually fit a lot better, I feel like. And to me, maybe I'm just nerding out, but I feel like it's kind of cool. Like for Vegas, like I've seen like videos of people flying over Vegas and seeing just like the city, it's a very decently sized city, and then the outside is just literally desert. Like it's just instantly desert. It's super cool to me. I feel like it's so unique, but it's very interesting. Anyways, another team name could be the Spades. So obviously in the WNBA, we have the Las Vegas Aces. What would you think about the Las Vegas Spades for the NBA? Let me know what you guys think down below. Would you rather have the Sharks, Outlaws, Spades, or a different team name for Vegas? Drop that down below in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your opinion. But anyways, let's get on to the main topic of today's episode, where if you guys look at the title, it'll be talking about the NFL, where in the NFL, we've had NFL free agency go down. There's still plenty of great free agencies remaining that still have yet to be signed, that could be signed by the time you're watching this, but also they might be signed, after the draft and all that, which is normally what happens, especially with a lot of these veterans. I'm going to talk about 3 huge moves that went down, kind of 4 moves, but anyways, 3 big moves, whether that's through a trade or not a trade, foreshadowing, or some signings. So let's first talk about the first big signing that happened in free agency, one that went down almost right away, and that was Kenneth Walker, aka K9, to the Kansas City Chiefs. He signed a 3-year, $43.05 million contract. $28.7 million of that is guaranteed, also along with a $13 million signing bonus, which adds up to about $14.35 million a year. So Kenneth Walker getting, being the Super Bowl 60 MVP, we kind of were suspicious, thinking that maybe he's going to leave Seattle. Well, that's true now. He's leaving Seattle and joining Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. As a Broncos fan, I absolutely dislike this signing because the Chiefs, one of the biggest things that they needed was a running back to bolster their offense, and now they got one. They got one of the best. So definitely a great signing for the Chiefs. Not a great look for the Broncos, but overall, it's a great signing. I just remember Pacheco was the guy that was kind of the scapegoat last year for the Chiefs a lot of times on offense, and it could be understood, and understandably so. I mean, Pacheco had a very rough season, and I think Kenneth Walker is going to really level up that Chiefs offense to go back to possibly competing, especially for possibly Travis Kelce's last season. Another big thing that went down, or didn't go down, I guess, is the Max Crosby trade. Max Crosby, initially, we heard reports that went out that Max Crosby has been traded to the Baltimore Ravens for a 2026 and 2027 first-round pick. And eventually, a few days later, that trade ended up getting voided because Max Crosby did not pass his physical, therefore sending Max Crosby back to Vegas to play for the Raiders, which could be an interesting situation. I think Crosby's still going to play, but it's an interesting situation to say the least. It was one of those things where I remember I was making a thumbnail for the video about 2 weeks ago. I'll put that thumbnail up on the screen so you guys can see it. At first, so I have Kenneth Walker like on the left side and AJ Brown in a Chargers jersey on the right side, just kind of like getting some possible chances of something. I actually, instead of AJ Brown, I actually had Max Crosby in a Bears uniform because I actually thought he was going to go to the Bears. And then instantly, I remember I was like, oh man, I got to change this quick because he's already going to the Ravens. So I can't just have him in a Bears uniform. That would look weird on the thumbnail. So just a little interesting story. And then turns out he's not even going to the Ravens. So it's an interesting situation. And then, you know, what makes it a little more fishy to me is the Ravens, like, not even like a day later, it feels like, signed Trey Hendrickson to, let's see if I have the contract details. Yes, a 4-year, $112 million contract with $60 million guaranteed and a $20 million signing bonus, along with that leads up to about $28 million per year for Hendrickson. So it's like, it feels like the Ravens backed out of this because they realized that they can get Hendrickson without having to get rid of 2 first-round picks, which in realistically, it's smart for the Ravens if that was the case. But at the same time, it's like you kind of backstabbed not just Crosby but the Raiders, and like as a Broncos fan, it's like, oh well, like cool. But it's just an interesting situation. I think it's kind of funny, but it's also like I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Like, do you think the Ravens did a bad thing? Like, do you think they did the NFL or Max Crosby dirty, or do you think it was the smart move? Let me know what you guys think down below. And then the other big move that happened yesterday, as I'm recording this on Wednesday, so on Tuesday, Jalen Waddle got traded from the Dolphins to the Denver Broncos, and I tell you what, I have never been more excited to bring in a weapon. I thought the Broncos were going to do absolutely nothing this offseason, but no, George Paton shocks us with a crazy blockbuster trade, trading for Jalen Waddle while getting rid of the 30th pick of this year in the first round, while also getting rid of a 4th and I believe a 3rd round pick as well. They also got a 4th round pick in return with Waddle. So a very big trade went down there, probably the biggest trade of the NFL offseason, maybe other than McDuffie, but even then, I think this Waddle trade is huge, and this is really going to elevate Denver's offense to another level, in my opinion. Now you have co-wide receiver ones with Waddle and Sutton, and then you have solid depth behind them with Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant, and Marvin Mims, along with some other guys like LaJordan Humphrey, who I absolutely dislike as a player. He's a great blocker, just really frustrates me. You can ask my family. They know my thoughts on LaJordan Humphrey. But anyways, this is a great move for the Broncos. I'm super excited to see Jalen Waddle rock number 17 in the orange and blue. Let me know what you guys think of that trade. Grade it A through F down below in the comments. But anyways, that's going to be the end of podcast number 90 of Sports Talk with JWock. It's crazy to say that we're already 90 episodes in. We're getting so close to podcast 100. I'm trying to get some ideas brewing soon. So if you have any ideas of what podcast 100 should look like, let me know down below. Also, I would really love to get your guys' input on this specific thing. If you want to comment on one thing, please comment on this. Do you like this format? This is the first time doing it, so obviously it's going to take some time to really ease into it and adjust and get used to it, since I'm talking about multiple sports in one episode. Also, doing an podcast by myself is incredibly difficult. If I was talking with someone else, I feel like it would make things a little easier for me, but I like taking on that challenge. Do you guys like this new format where I'm kind of including every sport, so everybody has the opportunity to be able to listen or watch something that they enjoy? So I just kind of wanted to be more inclusive for everybody, but let me know what you guys think down below. Anyways, you could check out all my social media platforms down below in the description. You can also like and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to. You don't have to, but if you'd like to, you never miss an episode, and I would greatly appreciate it. Tell your friends and family about this podcast. Share it, like, and subscribe, and I hope you all have an amazing week. God bless.